The Construction Association of Michigan, CAM, has been helping commercial and industrial contractors and suppliers grow since 1885. Now's the time to join. Visit buildwithcam.com. If you're a construction company looking to grow, CAM offers resources to help you build your staff, find more projects, and expand your network. Join today. The Construction Association of Michigan. They're one industry, one resource, one CAM. Join today at buildwithcam.com.
It's that time of year. Time to review your workers' compensation plan and shift to coverage that pays you back. CAMCOMP, part of the Construction Association of Michigan, is the state's leading self-insured group designed for the construction industry. The safer your employees, the more money you get back. The average payback to members is 45% of their premium, a very smart investment.
Find out how safety pays. For more information, please contact Michelle Mage at mmage@camcomp.net.
Hello, and welcome to our 18th episode of the Building Michigan podcast, produced for Michigan's construction industry by the Construction Association of Michigan, CAM. My name is Kevin Kohler. I'm the president of CAM and your host for Building Michigan. Our podcast is designed for the construction industry here in the Great Lakes State. Each 25 to 30-minute episode will feature conversations on industry topics, including a variety of conversations with industry leaders discussing construction projects, trends, business development, workforce safety, legislation, and other industry-related topics. All right, let's get started. Season 3, Episode 18. We are super excited to have with us today some project team representatives from the historic Book Tower renovation in Detroit, CAM Magazine's 2023 Project of the Year. Joining us today are Larry Brinker Jr., CEO and President of Brinker, a group of family-owned and operated commercial construction service companies responsible for several $billion in construction projects, many of which play a critical role in the transformation and revitalization of Detroit. Larry also serves as the CEO of the Brinker Family Asset Management Company. He was recognized in 2015 by Crain's Detroit Business 40 Under 40 and Detroit Business Magazine's 30 in Their 30s. Brinker Jr.'s success has earned him the Next Generation Entrepreneur Award from the National Business League in 2017, the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2018, and a subsequent position as the national judge for the annual award. He received the University of Michigan Alumni Merit Award in 2022. Brinker Jr. has served on many boards for professional and educational organizations. Some of these include Chairman of the Board for the Construction Association of Michigan, University of Michigan Civil and Environmental Engineering Department, and Invest Detroit, to name a few. Also joining us in the studio today is Paul Yambor, Project Executive for Chrisman's Southeast Michigan. As a Project Executive in Chrisman's Southeast Michigan office, Paul provides leadership on complex projects throughout the Detroit area. With experience that includes DTWR, FedEx expansion, the 985 Michigan Avenue building modernization, as well as the recently completed and award-winning Book Tower mixed-use development that we're here to talk about today. With 25 plus years in the construction industry, Paul has extensive experience servicing markets including federal, mixed-use, higher ed, industrial, wastewater, and other key markets. Paul is a lead AP and a member of CAM and the Engineering Society of Detroit. Paul joined Chrisman in 2015 as Senior Project Manager and was promoted to Project Executive in 2019. Paul has a BS in Construction Management from Michigan State University. Gentlemen, welcome to CAM's Building Michigan podcast.
Thanks for having us, Kevin.
Thanks for having us.
So guys, before we get started, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Book Tower. I'm just going to scratch the surface and then we'll jump right into all the intricacies of the process of getting the job done. So I've been to the Book Tower redevelopment in downtown Detroit, and it really is a spectacular example of the Renaissance taking place in our great city. The bedrock-owned 38-story historic Italian Renaissance-style building has undergone a 7-year, $400 million transformation. The project involved extensive restoration, including replicating the building's original cornice, replacing 2,500 historic windows and restoring a 3-story atrium with stained glass dome. The reopened Book Tower now houses apartments, offices, restaurants, a hotel, and event spaces blending historical charm with modern amenities. The project manager for this massive project was a joint venture between Brinker and Chrisman. We're super excited to hear more details about that today, so let's get started, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, this first question, Larry, is going to go out to you, and it's this was a 7-year, $400 million transformation of an old vacant structure, actually 2 structures, right? The Book Tower and the Book Building. Who had the vision? What was the vision, the inspiration behind such a massive undertaking?
Kevin, so the vision really started with Bedrock, right? They were that catalyst. And it takes corporations and clients like Bedrock to really have that vision and that belief in what can be done. And so when you look at that building, when you look at the Book Tower, the first thing they did was really look at how could they pay homage to the history of the building while also preparing the building to be sustainable for the next 100 years. And then from there, our joint venture, Brinker Chrisman, we really took their vision and incorporated it into what we do on a daily basis. And the beauty of it was to be able to leave a legacy and leave a fingerprint on another jewel that's a part of the revitalization of the city of Detroit. And with that, we've been able to accomplish it. And every time you look at that building, it's amazing to see where it was when we started to where it is now and where it'll be in another 100 years from now.
Yeah, you've got to give Bedrock some credit to have the vision to be able to see past what
Absolutely.
It looked like in the beginning. And I looked through the magazine article that we had on the building today again, and even the transformation of something like cleaning the exterior of the building, and then I think one of our subcontractors was involved in RAM. I mean, just removing all the dirt and grime and everything. And then when I hear about the intricacies of what you guys had to deal with to get this project done, and we're going to get into those in a few minutes, but it really makes you proud. You guys have got to be proud that you were part of something so significant and such a landmark in the city.
Absolutely. And I always tell people the most amazing thing about construction is that when we leave our mark on a building, when we leave that legacy, that's there and it's going to stand the test of time where our great-grandkids at some point would be able to see that building and think back to the lineage of our families and our companies. No different than the community, right? It's truly us building places where people belong, and these places will be here many years after we're not.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I was reading the article this afternoon. It's got to be cool for the two of you. I don't, Paul, I don't know if you have children. I assume you probably do. But
yeah.
When you drive down there and go, hey, your dad was involved in this. It's got to be a great feeling. It's cool for me to say that I know the guys who did this. It really is a great restoration. So, I know the Brinker Chrisman thing is nothing new. You guys have done some fantastic. You've done several joint ventures, and they always seem to be very successful. What's the secret sauce? I mean, you guys have done some spectacular work together and rebuilt Detroit's skyline, truly, including the new train station.
Right.
Or not new, but redone.
True. So, yes, we have a secret sauce. I would say the part that's funny is how the relationship really reignited. We had teamed up years ago for Detroit Public School projects that went very well. And one day we got a call that Chrisman was looking to come to town and do work in Detroit. And so I met with the team and we came up with a few ideas, and just so happened there was a project that was about to come out for bid through a RFP process, and we decided we were going to go after it, right? We ended up winning that project. Then shortly thereafter, another project came out, and we said, well, we have our team going already. Let's go after this one too. And we won that project. And as we were doing these projects, as we were constructing them, we really had a huge focus on making sure we were one team. So the owner looked at us as one company, not separate companies that came together for their project. And when we established that culture, we were really unstoppable. And from there, we kind of got on a winning streak, and we just carried that culture throughout. So that's really what I would say our secret sauce is just being able to be cohesive and representing the individual companies in a manner where it looks unified, and it is unified for the betterment of the project and ultimately the owner.
I had to ask that because there's been so many wonderful projects that both, the joint venture's been involved in. So, Paul, before I get into specifics, directly about the building, what's your take on that whole joint venture thing? I mean, do you feel the same way? I mean, is that...
Absolutely. I mean, the key to a successful joint venture is when a subcontractor or an owner's rep comes in and into your trailer, right, boots on the ground, and they don't know which company you work for.
Mm-hmm.
You work for the joint venture. You don't work for Brinker or Crispin. And that has been key on all of our joint ventures.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody walks in there and they don't try and differentiate. They just know that we're all building together and we're one team. Or we're Brinker, Crispin, Brinker. That's who we are. And so, to me, that's telling, and that has been true. For all of our joint ventures.
It's been proven.
Yeah,
obviously. So, on this particular job, before I jump into specifics, but I've got to ask this: like, was this design build, or there were so many crazy intricacies on this thing. Like there was apparently no elevators, so you guys had to figure out how you were going to move stuff up 38 floors and in and out. And so how did that work? Was it design build, or did you guys bid off a plan? Or?
So we were brought in early, actually before it was even put out to bid to the CM contractors. We assisted with the buck hoist procurement,
okay,
and really helped with that logistics layout. And then from there, it came out as a CMAR package, construction manager at risk, and
mm-hmm.
We proposed down and interviewed, and fortunately we were successful enough to win the project.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good background.
Yeah.
All right, so Paul, this question, I will ask you the official question now. With such an emphasis on historical accuracy, how did the design team balance preserving, all the original elements of the building while integrating, the more modern amenities and systems?
That's a great question, because I think when you walk that building, you can really see how well old from new blend in together. And I think Kramer Design Group really was the historic backbone for the ODA team, the architect that was out of New York, to really ensure that we're meeting all the SHPO requirements.
Mm-hmm.
But there's fine details that you might not even assume. In the corridors, we're supposed to maintain that historic aspect of an office building while providing layouts for apartments. And so subtleties such as having false doors throughout the hallway that give the appearance that there's office after office, when really those are just there for the historic looks. Whereas the actual apartments themselves were laid out to be very efficient,
mm-hmm.
and energy efficient and more modern. Another subtle one would be the light fixtures in the apartments. You'll notice brass light fixtures that really carry through into the elevator corridor, where we have brass mail chutes that's been there 100 years, right? So
that's cool.
Those subtleties are pretty cool. They're tied really throughout. Other things that were maybe larger. On the 13th floor, we added the one structure to the building. That was brand new, and again, because of sight lines, it couldn't go up against the facade. It had to be set back, so from the street, it didn't look like an addition. That really provided opportunities for Camper's Bar, which has one of the highest rooftop bars in the city now.
Which incidentally, Camper is the guy who originally designed the building,
the architect,
so the bar is named after him. That's kind of a cool
thing.
Right.
Right. So even though they had to set it back, and that could have been wasted space, it turned really to an opportunity to have fantastic facility up on there,
mm-hmm.
on the 13th roof. The 12th floor was another area where they had concrete roof slabs really covering that, which is now a skylight, right? So ODA came up with a design: let's bring light into this event space. Let's make this a place where we want to have weddings and festive events.
Mm-hmm.
And so demoed the concrete roof slabs, left all the structural steel in place, and it's still there. That's actually supporting the skylights, and then you look up to see the tower through that skylight, and you can see both old and new blended in one spot. So that's just another good example. On storefronts, on level 1 is again another area where, energy efficient glazing systems are important. That wasn't part of the past, and along with our partners at Universal Glass and Metal, where we could actually have a brand new system but then have cast iron applique that would make it look like a historic facade. So a lot of those different details were really carried throughout the project.
Yeah, there was a lot of time and energy spent on these details to make it to keep it kind of in the theme that it was in back in the 20s when it was built. I read about some of the stuff, some of the intricate glass work, and in a minute we'll talk about the atrium, which is spectacular. But the whole building, in keeping with that whole historic theme, it's really remarkable. And when you see a job and you go 7 years, I'm like, holy smoke! But you understand why when you start really examining all the intricacies that were involved in making this historically correct. So just give me a quick overview of the building. So we have a rooftop bar called Campers. You've got the event space, which we just talked about. So it is mixed use, right? So it's apartments, it's hotel, and retail. Is that correct? Is there retail in it?
There will be retail.
Okay.
There's spaces on level 2 and 1 for actually 3, 2, and 1 for retail, retail and office. There's the French restaurant La Safran, which is on level 1, and then some great Japanese options as well on 1 and in the basement. So really, that whole building is just full of opportunities to bring people together, and it's really cool.
Do you have any idea on occupancy? I'm just curious as to, you just opened, in June of 22 or 23?
So, officially they started leasing almost a year ago.
Okay.
And I've actually talked to their leasing office not too long ago, and they're expecting full occupancy of the apartments by the end of August. So they're moving along at a great
That's impressive.
clip.
Yeah,
and I know their hotel has also done really well with different events downtown, and so that's the Roost.
Yeah.
And so I know that's been well received and well occupied.
Yeah, it really is. If you haven't been to the building, you need to go for sure. So let's talk more about some of the real intricacies. Like maybe you can highlight some of the extensive interior and exterior restoration that actually took place. I know there's a lot of intricate plaster work. I read today about on each of the 4 corners they had a terracotta female kind of holding up the building, and those were heavy, and the structure was falling apart. They were afraid it was going to fall and, destroy someone or something. And so it sounds like you had someone make a mold, an exact mold that's now made out of fiberglass, or all these little intricacies on the corners and stuff that make this building, or preserve this building for another 100 years and make it, bring it alive again.
Right. Yeah, the exterior facade was done with the contract before us. That was with RAM, and I know they really led that effort, and they did a fantastic job of really bringing that facade back to life.
Another great CAM number, by the way.
Exactly right, right. Yeah, that whole section was really done by RAM, so I couldn't talk too specific on it, but
right. And I saw the roof too was done by Cass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cass did that, but even as you look at the building, though, right? Like when you look at the marble throughout and
Wolverine.
Stories, right? The stories that marble could tell, right? Just from when it was
in its heyday,
exactly, to now. It's pieces of the building like that really creates that character, and it really speaks to the history that was in that building as well.
Yeah, I heard the marble was in disrepair, like cracking, and I guess the guys took it down from Wolverine and used epoxy and restored it, and from what I understand, you can't even tell there was ever any cracks or imperfections. It's pretty spectacular work.
Right. Yeah. Really, both the plaster and the stonework and the decorative painting. I have to give a shout out to really all the Detroit craftsmen and especially the contractors, because we didn't need to go out of Detroit to find those contractors. They're right here in Michigan, which was fantastic.
That's another thing that in looking at the sub list and looking through some of the stuff I was preparing before this interview, I'm proud to say these are all, a lot of them are Detroit-based contractors. Certainly a lot are southeastern Michigan-based, and we have a great talent pool in this area to be able to provide, a legacy of history. It's fascinating what can be done. We did have some great subs on that, and most all of them are CAM members, which I'm pretty happy about. If you know any that aren't, let me know.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get them in.
So guys, logistically, we touched on it briefly. There's a ton of logistical issues with this building, but how in the heck do you how do you restore a 38-story building with no working elevator? What, you have to like put elevators on the exterior, or how does that work?
That is essentially what we did.
Exactly what we did.
The good forethought there again with Bedrock, knowing that site logistics were going to be key to this project, and that's when we were brought in really early to erect dual hoists that went up 400 plus feet, 6,000 pound elevator capacity through Metro.
So is that secured to the outside of the building, or how does that work? Or is it like a freestanding thing?
It's actually secured, through actually window openings, so that we didn't have to punch any holes in the historic facade. So it's all the way up that building. It's connected, and that was quite a challenge. On a lot of new projects, you have to obviously bring material in, and that's pretty standard. But on a renovation, restoration, we actually had to bring materials out. This building was pretty much abandoned, after 2009 and left.
Yeah, there was extensive demolition done to it, right? On the interior, and you had to get all the busted pieces of concrete and everything else out of there.
Everything out, and even just the desks that were just left there. I mean, the tenants literally left everything in the place because there was a point in time when the elevators didn't work, and so they walked out, and that was it. So the first year before we were even brought on board was just removing all that debris from the offices and from demo. It's pretty remarkable.
That's interesting.
Even to Paul's point, a super cool story that came out of the construction was during demo. Our demo contractors actually found a purse above the ceiling during demo, and this purse had been there for close to 15 to 18 years or so, or more.
More than that, like 30
actually.
years, I think, plus,
And so they found this purse. We were able to reunite the purse with the actual owner, and I believe the story was something where she was headed out to lunch, and it was people working in the office, and she didn't trust to leave her purse out, so she put it above the ceiling and
forgot about it. Really?
30 years later, we find it.
That is a cool story. That's pretty. There's got to be a lot of little neat things like that you come across. Yeah. So the cornices, the marble work. I mean, just all the intricacies. The painting, as you mentioned. I mean, there was some really ornate painting. Who replicated that, or who did that for you?
So Eugenio Painting really did all of our decorative painting. They did a phenomenal job of coming in, helping to clean the paint, so we could really understand, or the architect could understand, what color palette we should be using for the restoration.
Mm-hmm.
And then they actually had one gentleman who, after they did all the field painting, spent probably 4 or 5 months brush stroking all of the detail. When you go look up there, just think of one guy painting all those little intricacies throughout.
It's like Michelangelo or Michelangelo. That's some incredible detail.
Pretty,
That's another thing that guy's got to be super proud of when he walks in and goes, "I did that."
Absolutely.
That's super cool. So, the guys that one of the things that really stands out in the building, I think, is super cool, and they consider it, I guess, the crown jewel of the project, is the 3-story atrium with all the intricacies. There's like 7,000 little pieces of glass. They call them jewels or something. Explain that to me. Was that covered at one point when you first got there, or did you know it was there, or how? Talk a little bit about that.
Our understanding is that it was covered up with ceiling tile.
That's what I thought I read somewhere.
So it was hidden. The actual 2 floors were infilled during the 70s or 80s just to create more office space.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically hid that whole jewel of the building for decades before we could finally uncover it and bring it back to life.
So was it covered outside too? It seems like somebody throw a stone in it. You know what I mean?
So on the interior of the atrium, when you're looking from up top, it was actually covered with plywood, so you could tell that something was there, but it was really, again, it was very in disrepair and covered with boards.
Wow! Think about this, Tim. I mean, this project, just to get going on it took them a year of cleaning just getting crap out of the building and getting it ready to proceed. So there's a lot of intricacies in this thing.
Kevin, I have to tell you, I mean, and I probably speak for Paul here too, we have seen some amazing construction projects and scopes be completed, but this was one of the most transformational scopes of work that I've seen done. Like, as it was being prepped, we saw the framework and we knew it would be cool, but once you see the finished product, I mean, it really is one of the coolest reconstructions that I've personally seen throughout the career that I've had, and it's super cool to have that be in Detroit and be one of our projects as well.
Yeah, for sure. That had to be just a great team from the architectural, standpoint to the historical standpoint to the owners. I mean, the owners had to support all this stuff, right? And then you guys working together with the subcontractors to really pull it off.
Absolutely. Yeah, in this particular dome, one thing that not many people know is that the glass that's below the vaulted ceiling area is actually a recreation. It wasn't there when Bedrock purchased the building, and was really only understood from photos that they had seen. So, we brought in Feminella Associates, a company that is
they're stained glass experts. They're renowned around the world. Yeah.
Correct, and they built a full mock-up in their shop to really try and continually work on that groin vault dimension to where it finally fit perfectly for our space and for the as-built condition. And then again, Wolverine Stone working with the marble to recreate the balustrade around that atrium, and working with with Russell Plaster to tie it all together. So it's really cool to see all those experts working in concert to produce such a fine product.
Yeah, it's spectacular. It really is. It really is special. Tim, I think you had told me you had a question. Maybe you wanted to ask the guys.
Yeah. So I saw that Detroit was selected as Architectural Digest one of the best places to travel in 2024, and Book Tower is featured as one of the city's landmark destinations. So, for any listeners out there who, maybe haven't seen this project, what advice would you give to like a first-time visitor on how they could maybe experience Book Tower?
Well, not to sound like a commercial for Bedrock and Roos, but I would say you would want to book a room in there.
Definitely
hotel,
stay at the Roos.
And then you can really taste all the different restaurants, while you stay there. I mean, there's a week's worth of places that you can go and eat, and it's walking distance to many other attractions in Detroit. So, I would just say just get down there. You won't be disappointed regardless of where you go and what where you eat and where you visit.
Yeah, you guys mentioned there was some French restaurants and Japanese restaurants there. Sounds like a good place to start, probably.
Well, Tim, I think you should start at Campers, the bar up top, and have a beer or two.
Work your way down.
Yeah, work your way down. Work up an appetite.
Right.
Yeah, it really is spectacular. You know what? You bring up a good point. I mean, they're talking about it nationally, and actually Detroit is being talked about again. It's kind of cool to see these conferences coming in, and like you'd go to Chicago and you'd take the boat tour of all the buildings, and they'd show you. Now you can come to Detroit and see these remarkable restorations, new and real restorations that are just spectacular. And makes us. I mean, Detroit was one of the top cities in the country for a lot of years during the Industrial Revolution and beyond, and it's nice to see that revitalization because we really do have some spectacular, one-of-a-kind type buildings here in the city, and you guys have been an instrumental part of making that happen. So for that, I thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure our listeners do too.
And Kevin, to that point, like when you talk about people coming from all over the world, quite frankly, right? And you talk about Detroit coming back and being recognized. When you look at Book Tower, you look at Michigan Central Station, people from all over the world will come to Detroit to see these buildings. And the coolest part is being able to really engage the visitors in a way where they can appreciate the history of these buildings, while also creating new spaces for future generations where they're comfortable living in these buildings and working in these buildings and ultimately playing in these spaces as well. And so that is really what it's about when we talk about the revitalization of a city in the United States. Like, it doesn't happen often, and for it to be something right in our backyard, that's really the most rewarding component. It's just being able to once again pay homage to the history while making the spaces comfortable for future generations as well.
Absolutely. And it's pretty cool that we have some owners, some families here in the town, the Illiches, the Fords, obviously the Gilberts, that really care and do spend the money to help with this whole process. And then we have talented contractors like yourselves who can actually take their vision and turn it into reality. It's something special. It really is.
It is.
So hey guys, we're probably getting into this a little bit. I normally end this on a couple of questions. The first one I want to ask you is, Paul, from your perspective, what did you find the most rewarding on this project?
Sure. I think construction in general, I've always thought it's rewarding that the connections that we make with the people that we're building for. Whether it's a school and it's the teachers and the students, or a hospital, it's the patients and the nurses. But on this project, it really is blending in the past. I was on a conference call. I happened to be at my book office that day, and I just was telling people where I was at, and this gentleman perked up, and he's like, the book tower? He's like, I met my wife on the 13th floor of the book tower.
Wow.
I'm like, that's great,
Yeah.
And so his wife worked at the airlines, and so after that meeting, he sent me a note, hey, is there any way I could get a tour? My wife and some of our friends all worked in the book tower. So, on one weekend we all went down there and gave him a tour during the construction, and we've stayed in touch throughout. And to me, that is what is special about construction in general, but also bringing these historic buildings back to life. Is those generational stories. It's just phenomenal.
That's cool.
That gives just makes you smile.
Yeah,
it's really
it gives
cool.
me goosebumps.
Yeah.
It makes you feel. I'm proud for you guys. It's awesome.
It's really cool.
So, Larry, same question to you. What did you find the most rewarding on the project, other than the purse that was found, which was pretty cool?
It's definitely just the sense of pride. And for us, when I say us, I'm speaking specifically from Brinker's perspective for a second, that we have been in the city of Detroit since really, I would say, the early 90s. And oftentimes we were looked at as being crazy for being in the city of Detroit. And now being able to once again have our fingerprint on bringing these buildings back to life that were in great disrepair, and hearing the stories that Paul just shared, it's really just that sense of pride of being a part of that, so that all of those naysayers from years back of looking at us like we were crazy for being in Detroit, now they want to be in Detroit, and us being a part of the reason why they do want to be in Detroit, feels really good.
Larry, I know your dad too, and I remember when you guys, you had the building on Michigan, and you put money into it, and you restored it, and and it was a different time than we've known each other, like our whole careers, and it's you're spot on, man. It's really cool to see the turn and to see the resurgence and the revitalization, and you guys are leading the way. So I give you a ton of credit. Thank you. One more thing, guys. I usually ask at the end of these things, do you have any words of wisdom for our listeners out there? So, Larry, anything you want to say to the CAM world?
I'll say keep going, and Detroit never stops.
All right. That's awesome.
That's good, Larry.
Paul, how about you?
I would echo the keep going. These projects are difficult, and we come through lots of obstacles. But when you bring the whole team together with trade contractors and architects and owners, we really can do anything. And I think that's what's really again inspiring. So just keep going, keep doing it.
Absolutely. I'm super proud when I look at this list and I see, a majority of the subs, if not all the subs, are CAM members. We've got 2 great CAM members here that have been involved with CAM for many years that actually are the joint venture construction managers on the project. It's a great industry, and you guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you.
On behalf of myself, Tim Andrews, our engineer, and the whole crew here at CAM, I want to thank Paul and Larry for joining us today on CAM's Building Michigan podcast. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Building Michigan, the official podcast of the Construction Association of Michigan, hosted by Kevin Kohler, CAM president. We appreciate you spending a part of your day with us, If you have a second, please share our podcast with industry colleagues. Leave us a review and connect with us at www.buildwithcam.com. That's all for now. Be sure to subscribe to Building Michigan wherever you get your podcasts and join us for the next episode.
The Construction Association of Michigan, CAM, has been helping commercial and industrial contractors and suppliers grow since 1885. They provide contractors leadership through aggressive lobbying, construction project reporting, safety and education training, industry promotion, insurance, and banking. Are you an owner, developer, or buyer of construction services? Hire a CAM member to get your project done on time and under budget. They are one industry, one resource, one CAM. Check them out at buildwithcam.com.
It's that time of year. Time to review your workers' compensation plan and shift to coverage that pays you back. CAMCOMP, part of the Construction Association of Michigan, is the state's leading self-insured group designed for the construction industry. The safer your employees, the more money you get back. The average payback to members is 45% of their premium, a very smart investment.
Find out how safety pays. For more information, please contact Michelle Mage at mmage@camcomp.net.